us to our committee, namely the passing of a great American patriot, Charles Sam Faddis. Sam was a member, I believe, from the founding of the Committee on the Present Danger of China. He was one of its most prominent members. He participated faithfully in the webinars that we do. He has contributed to, among other things, this important book that we published with his help and that of a number of other members of the committee and others, entitled "China is at War with America." And it spoke of the biological warfare attack on our country precipitated by the Chinese Communist Party, unfortunately, as we all know, with the help of Dr. Anthony Fauci and a few other Americans. Sam knew a lot about biological weaponry. It was in his last duty station in the CIA, in which he had the responsibility of protecting our country against them and other weapons of mass destruction. As it happens, it appears he died wildly prematurely as a result of that biological weapons attack by the Chinese Communist Party. The knock-on effects of long COVID, apparently, were what took him down. I'd wanted to say for myself, about this time each week, Sam would participate in a taping of our television program, Securing America. It was truly one of the high points of the week. It was invariably fascinating, engaging, informative, inspiring. In fact, very good television, I think. And it's left a hole in our lineup in a very palpable way. But sadly, it's so much bigger than that, because there is a hole in the lineup of freedom fighters who understand the threats to our country. And unfortunately, they're not just from the Chinese Communist Party, and Sam was very clear about that. Indeed, there was an understanding on his part that he shared with our audience and countless others, notably in our friend Steve Bannon's program, War Room. His understanding of the various threats we face, and more importantly, his insights into what we must do about them. Truly an incredible resource, an incredible patriot. In the course of the next hour or so, you're going to hear from people who loved him, as did I, who had the privilege of knowing him, as did I, the honor of working with him, as did I. And we couldn't be more proud of the team that is assembled for the purpose of paying tribute to the truly great Charles Sam Faddis. To kick things off, we're going to hear from the chairman of the Committee on the Present Danger of China, another great American patriot, Brian Travis Kennedy. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Well, thank you, Frank. I would say at some profound level, this is a sad moment for the country. But I'd also say Sam was so much bigger than that, that he would have wanted us to be inspired by what he had done. And he would have known that the fight was still on and that we shouldn't preoccupy ourselves with sadness, but rather with the fight. And so one of the things about Sam was he was always, his sort of general excellence was infectious in a way. He was so good at what he did that he inspired, I think, everybody around him to be good. As I've said before about Sam, I first knew him from his books, and his books are just excellent. Beyond Repair, The Decline and Fall of the CIA is a masterpiece in explaining and understanding what was going wrong in the CIA. And Sam wrote that, other books, Operation Hotel California, Willful Neglect, books that even though Sam's gone, we have his books, and we'll have his books for an awfully long time. And I would encourage the audience to read the books. Read them, one, because they're great reads. A lot of people write books. Not many people write great books. Sam wrote great books. They're eminently readable, and they tell great stories, and they inform someone about what's going wrong in our country and how to get them right. So I was always impressed by him as a writer. He was an excellent writer, and I think he'd be proud to have been remembered as an excellent writer, because you could tell he focused a lot on the quality of his writing. He was the kind of guy, I would say, that, and you could tell this from the writing, that he knew what he was doing. And America, almost any civilization, is run by those kind of people who just know what they're doing. They take life seriously, they get good at things, and they apply themselves to them. In Sam's case, he applied himself to saving his country. He did that his whole life, in the military and at the Central Intelligence Agency, and then afterwards as a public intellectual and as a political activist. Without people like Sam, the world doesn't run. The country doesn't run. I was always impressed when I met Sam that the first thing I thought was, it's because of men like Sam that this country works. And thank God we have them. He, in the last 6-8 months, spent a lot of time talking about Iran on, with you, Frank, on your show, and also on Steve Bannon's War Room. And he was not for the war in Iran. And I was always trying to understand why, because I myself have been supportive of the president. And it's not that Sam wasn't supportive of the president, but he wasn't supportive of the engagement in Iran. And I think one of the reasons was that he thought that the excellence that's required to win wars was no longer present in various parts of our government, whether it was the intelligence agencies or the military perhaps, or, other parts of the government. It's not that we didn't have great people in the military, not that we didn't have great people in the intelligence community. It's just that there was something broken within both systems that was going to cause us not to do well in Iran. And Sam warned about those things, I thought, in very thoughtful ways. And, we disagreed about some of those things, but he, you couldn't help but be persuaded by his seriousness and by his understanding intimately of what was really going on, and why, if we're going to engage in politics, if we're going to save our country, we have to get really good at certain things. And I think a great lesson for all of us is Sam was really good at things. And if we're going to pay tribute to him, in part, we owe it to both him and our country to get good at things, get good at our writing, get good at explaining to our countrymen what's going wrong in our country today. And Sam did it with passion and with love and with a kind of patriotism that is very much inspiring. And so I would invite everyone, as I say, to read his books, watch his videos, which are numerous, on War Room and Frank's show, Securing America, and be yourself about the task of making your country a better place. So thank you, Frank, and thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Brian. And I just want to echo very strongly your point, as will be attested to, I'm sure, by everybody. Sam was full of life while he was with us, and had one of the most marvelous senses of humor of anybody I've ever met. And he would want us to be joyful in his celebration of his life. So we will be about that. Thank you, Brian. We're going to hear next from John Mills, a retired U.S. Army colonel who is now a Deputy Assistant Secretary of State with responsibility for a very important portfolio. He runs the Bureau of Cyberspace and Digital Policy in the Department of State. He is bringing to that particular position a wealth of experience in government, as well as the military, of course, and in the private sector, much of it having to do with the business of cyberspace, cyber warfare, cyber policy, and just about anything else you can think of in the national security arena.
Shenyun Creations, the streaming platform from Shenyun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more.
In myriad departments, including the Department of Defense. We are deeply grateful to you, sir, for representing, I guess, if you will, the administration. I know you'll be speaking in your own right, but we're glad to have evidence of good people, including people from our Committee on the Present Danger of China, now serving President Trump inside the government. Welcome. Thank you so much for participating in this program. Over to you.
Hey, thank you, Frank and Brian and Karen and all my colleagues here. It's an honor to be back with you. Sad to be back with you in these circumstances, but Sam was, as it was said by Brian and Frank, really larger than life. I'll miss him a lot. I have several just poignant memories of him. As soon as I just came back from 3 weeks overseas, literally within hours saw this alert, and it just shocked me that Sam had passed. And I've been out of the country for several weeks. But I remember in the election chaos, malfeasance, election steal after 2020, I remember myself, my wife, and my daughter meeting Sam and his daughter in Philadelphia as we went to be part of the contingent rallying for election integrity and transparency and accountability on the circumstances of election 2020. And as we're seeing, it's Tulsi Gabbard at the DNI before departure, and we've seen over and over again, everything that we were worried and concerned about is being revealed. And so Sam and his daughter, myself, my wife, and my daughter made our way through the demonic crowds to an area cordoned off by the police for those rallying for the president and election integrity to get gather. And so it was just absolutely awesome being there with Sam and others. And it was actually quite a powerful contingent. And I will never forget, one of the things that Sam had arranged was he says, we have decibel dominance, because he had arranged for the loudspeakers to be brought to very loudly, and we were able to drown out the larger forerunners of the Social Democrats of America and their demonic behavior. We were able to drown them out through our use of the loudspeakers playing mega-like music. It was wonderful. It was great. So we had a good contingent. We were outnumbered, but I just never forget there being with Sam and his daughter and my family as we were standing our ground for election integrity. So that's one memory. But I have to say, it was the Team B report, and you showed that, Frank, that really was quite memorable. And Frank, Sam was incredible, and he was so spot on, and his analytical behavior of not just the virus, not just Wuhan, not that it was obvious it was a lab leak, but also of Dr. Fauci. That was so incredible. This was the heady old days of the CIA, where there was robust ability to psychologically analyze the personalities. And he was spot on about Fauci, as we just saw yesterday. This unbelievable behavior by Fauci, over 100 times taking the fifth. Sam was spot on about everything about Fauci, just incredible. I mean, and he just provided so much to that, the Committee on Present Danger. And I remember when we rallied in the early days of 2020, because we saw the color revolution unfolding again. Sam's just steady hand, wisdom, and guidance. He was just fantastic. And he was also so helpful to me personally and in my growth as a media contributor for right-minded outlets. So I always appreciate his. He reached out and helped me on a lot of things. So just a wonderful, wonderful man. So much he contributed to our cause, our movement, to America, and his family. And so we all miss him, lift him up and his family in prayer. So just thank you, Frank. It's just an honor to be here to remember Sam.
Thank you for doing so well, John. God bless you. Keep up the good work, my friend. We have a very important member of the Committee on the Present Danger of China. We often start the webinars each week with level setting from one of the top intelligence veterans in our country, Captain James Fennell, United States Navy, retired. He invariably helps put into sharp relief the issue that we're talking about in that particular program. I will shamelessly plug them. There have been over, I think, 230 of them to date, addressing all aspects of the threat we face from the Chinese Communist Party. And Sam, as I said earlier, was a fixture in many of them, as is Captain James Fennell. We asked him to give us some remembrances of our fallen friend. And here's what he said for our program, Securing America, earlier in the week. Let's go to the video.
It's a really obviously sad time for us that remain learning about Sam's passing this weekend. Way too young for somebody like him to go. I've known him for about 6 years. He was a member of the Red Star Risen list in your show and the War Room. And Sam demonstrated to me that somebody that extreme amount of what I'd call an American common sense. He understood the origins of our nation. He understood our history. And he also, because of his experience with the CIA in the Middle East, understood human nature, unlike any kind of other person I'd met. And he had a very, very practical American way of explaining what our adversaries were up to. And he was most known for, obviously, the Middle East and those areas where he had served. But he certainly understood the Chinese Communist Party extremely well. And he was very conversant in what they were doing. He and I shared, communications, and he was always the first guy to jump on recognizing an issue. I recall the effort of the information about this biolab in Central California that was near one of our naval air stations, Lemoore, NAS Lemoore. And he understood that when many others didn't, the risk and the implication it could mean for the U.S. Pacific Fleet. So I will miss Sam incredibly. This is the third compatriot that we've lost on my Red Star Risen list in the last year. Markham Dossett, Dr. Victor Marr, and now Sam Faddis, three great Americans. And Sam's is especially significant and an incalculable loss in many ways. But I know that he's in a better place today, and I know he's in heaven. And we're just very fortunate that we got to know him over these years, and we wish him and his family all the best.
One of the things that Sam had as part of his background, it was not quite as well known, I suspect, as was his time undercover in some pretty hellacious places, as you say, the Middle East broadly defined. But in his last duty station, Jim, as you know, I'm sure, he worked as the guy who had the portfolio at the headquarters of the Central Intelligence Agency for weapons of mass destruction terrorism. And his specific job was trying to make sure that that didn't get, inflicted upon us inside this country. And so I think his attention to that biolab was in part because he brought such expertise to the subject. And I wondered if that's a place that you had an opportunity to collaborate as well, more generally, in addition to the specific threat from the Chinese Communist Party, which inserted that biolab, and apparently that wasn't the only one inside this country.
Sam was understanding these issues across a wide spectrum of threats to the United States. And in this area of WMD proliferation, he was obviously very much attuned to it and was very keen to connect the dots that many in the intelligence community fail to do on a routine basis. And I think that's why we'll miss Sam greatly, is because he was an old school intelligence professional. He understood the value of human more so than any person I've ever known. And as somebody who came out of naval intelligence, where we rely a lot more on technical intelligence, I was always never a huge truster in human intelligence, but Sam was, for good reason, because he understood how it could be used. And he was, very concerned that the agency that he worked for had been compromised, and that the people that understood how to get in and get human intelligence, which can be very, very important, had been kind of brushed aside. And those skills and those techniques and the ability to gain human intelligence was being squeezed out of the very agency that was created to do that. And so he was the lone voice, or not the lone, he was the strongest voice in America to talk about how we needed to restore the classic techniques of human intelligence, which meant that we couldn't have, the woke ideology that would prevent us from actually doing the things that are necessary to get the intelligence that we need. And it's not always clean. It's not always something that's done in a church pew. It's something that's done in very seedy places sometimes, and it's done through bribery. It's done through exploitation. It's done through many, many ways that Sam knew greater than I will ever understand. He understood that. And so now he's gone, and I don't know who's going to be the voice for that in Langley right now. And I'm very concerned that his championship of that issue and his carrying that banner, I don't want it to fall on the ground. And so I hope there's others that will recognize this and pick that banner up before it touches the ground.
Another place, Jim, that I know you felt at least as strongly about as did he, and for that matter, as did I, was the extent to which the Chinese Communist Party, the main thing, as you've called it so brilliantly, was able to penetrate our government, talk about human intelligence, at the very highest level. I think it was Sam who was one of the first to raise the alarm about Hunter Biden's laptop, for example. And what we learned from that, he mined exhaustively and came to the conclusion, and he said it on this program repeatedly because I asked him to do so. He said that Joe Biden was a controlled asset of the Chinese Communist Party, something I very strongly believe, but he spoke about it with considerable authority. Your thoughts on that insight, sir?
There's no question that Sam was a keen counterintelligence expert as well, if you will. He understood that what he knew how to do and what his training was, that our adversaries were doing similar things. And so he was very, very aware of that. And this issue about former president being a controlled asset, I remember when he said it, and I remember, some people would, aghast at something like that. But he was right. I mean, Catherine Heritage has come out in the last 48 hours with bombshell evidence about this. So Sam was right before others. He could see the future, which is what real good intelligence officers, great intelligence officers can do. They can see the future. They understand what's coming, and they provide the warning. And that's what Sam did. And he understood human nature and the nature of our adversaries, the non-Americans, the people that were not part of our birth pangs, that grew up in different cultures, that have different values, and have no compulsion against trying to destroy us. And he understood that implicitly, and he never backed down, even when it meant countering what was the current popular thing to say in Washington, even during the Trump administration. He did not back down. He told the truth. And that's another hallmark of Sam Faddis, is that he was a truth teller. And a lot of people throw that around, and it's not deserved in many, many cases. But when I say that for Sam Faddis, it's not a cliche for me. I don't say that about almost anybody, but he really was somebody that told the truth and had the evidence to back it up.
Thank you very much, Captain Fennell. And truth teller, I know, is going to be a theme of many of the testimonials in this program. I want to turn next to, I think, the only female contributor to this tribute. She's a standout in many respects. Besides that, of course, her name is Dr. Karen Sigeman. She runs the American Freedom Alliance and has been a very active contributor to the work of the committee as well, and knew Sam, and I very much appreciate your contribution to the program, Karen.
Thank you so much, Frank. I mean, when I heard Sam was sick, I imagine all of us thought, yeah, but the man is indomitable. Of course, he will be fine. He's larger than life, as many have said. It was inconceivable that he be, in fact, struck down, and lo, he was. And here we are with this huge hole, as you say, in the lineup in the defense of the country. I first got to know Sam through the Committee on the Present Danger China. He spoke at 2 AFA conferences, World War III conference. He spoke in Georgia and in Pennsylvania, each time on different topics, but discovered, as you all know, that he was completely cognizant that we were at war. He understood the range of the threats, from everything that you were just talking about, weapons of mass destruction, Biden's laptop, the then president being a controlled asset. But he also, I'm just going to add this piece, he was very, very active in local politics in Pennsylvania. He was the notion of feckless Republicans not taking strong enough stances against globalism, against leftism, and so on. He was very, very active working to get accountability, even in the Republican Party. So from the local to the global, he was very active, very engaged, took a lot of time. Not only did he understand these things, but he worked very hard to make others understand them. The books Brian mentioned, I will add, and magazine. I was just going through what he had written about. Countless topics. An independent thinker, yes, a truth teller. He was not a party line guy. He connected the dots in ways, as was just said by Captain Fennell. He saw into the future. He understood it. Tried to get us to go along. He took us along. Brilliant storyteller. Every time I saw him, he had marvelous stories to tell, deeply chilling ones, very humorous ones. He was larger than life. He lived with tremendous gusto. He was one of the, carpe diem, seize the day. He seized everything all the time. He loved his wife. He loved his life. He loved his family. He loved his country. He loved the fight that he was in. He understood we needed people like him. We felt safer with him. I think we were safer with him. He did speak truth to power all the time. He was from the Keystone State, as I noted. I think he was a Keystone man. He embodied the best of us. He was the spirit of America in every great way. More like him, we have his example to follow. It was an absolute honor to know him. And yeah, the best way we can continue to honor him is to recognize the lessons that he taught us, embody the courage also that he lived with, be fearless, and do not be afraid if your conclusions go to somewhere nobody else is going. Follow them anyway, speak them, and fight for this country. We were so lucky to know him. I feel singularly honored to be part of his orbit, this orbit, watching him on War Room, watching him on Frank's show, having had him speak at our organization. He added such a remarkable flavor and energy and humor, and his jovial nature combined with courage, wisdom, incredible intelligence, forthrightness, again, larger than life, lived with gusto, great model to follow. Frank, I'm so glad that you are honoring him in this show. I love that Steve Bannon had 2 hours the other day honoring him. He was a true hero, and we toss that word around all too frequently. In this case, it's absolutely true. Sam was an absolute hero, and it was great to me among all of you and him who fought for this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. I had thought we were going to have to go to the videotape to get another of Sam's longtime colleagues, I think perhaps as long as any of us, to contribute to this program. I think he is on deck, though. Colonel Grant Newsham, United States Marine Corps retired. I'm told knew and worked with Sam Faddis for 4 decades. What a privilege. Grant, of course, is a man who has been as closely following the Chinese Communist Party and the threat that it represents, the main thing, as Sam and all of us have called it, thanks to Jim Fennell. He has the distinction not only of having served with decorated valor in uniform, but also served as a foreign service officer in our embassy in Tokyo. He's been a businessman in that part of the world and is the author of a best-selling book entitled When China Attacks. Colonel, if you are indeed here in the flesh, we'll go to you that way rather than by video. Welcome.
Tell us a little bit about your 40 years, as I understand it, of working with Charles Sam Faddis.
It was only around 40 that I knew him.
I think we've got
we
him
worked
live,
together at some points. And he was something else. As I mentioned the other day, he was the kind of guy that made charlatans uncomfortable. And there's a certain type of self-promoting, sort of smoke and mirrors type. And whenever Sam was around, that they would start to squirm, sort of do a sort of Rodney Dangerfield kind of thing. But he had that magic to him, and he was very clear about what he thought. He would change his mind if presented with other information. But he had a forcefulness to it. Not everyone has it. There was nothing retiring about him, but he wasn't overbearing either. But he was certainly someone who understood a mission, how to get it done, and also to sort of treat people decently. And people who worked for him all liked it. But he went to where the hard targets were. He went to dangerous places. His experience leading the first the CIA team in northern Iraq 9 months before the Americans actually invaded.
You're on mute, Frank.
Frank, you're muted.
I apologize. We have had a little bit of a miscommunication, but we are very privileged to have Colonel Grant Newsham with us in person, and we will go to him now. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Oh, goodness. I had actually planned to just listen to myself. But I thought I was much more articulate recording it yesterday. But I'll just speak briefly. Sam's departure has left a void that I don't quite know how we're going to fill it. Maybe somehow divine providence will. But most of us, if we disappeared, in a couple of weeks, we'd be remembered, but someone would step in. But Sam just left that kind of a gap. And I would recommend people go back and look at And magazine. It's been going for a long time, and look at what Sam wrote in that, and you will see how prescient it was, and what sort of the thinking that he was doing, and think also if we had been listened to, if he had been listened to. It's one of those things, but I had heard that he was actually in line to be the deputy director of operations at the CIA in the second Trump administration. And if there was ever a chance to clean up that miserable organization, it was him. He knew how to do it, and he would have, to been like turning the lights on and the cockroaches would have scurried away. He was just he was very clear about the problems. He wrote about these. Recommend reading his books and see what, he described the problems years ago at this place. And, why he didn't get hired, I don't know. I suspect that backstabbing is as much a moral imperative in any new administration when they scramble for jobs, just as much as it is at the CIA on a normal day. but it is an organization that he worked for a long time, did excellent work, and its importance cannot be overstated. But it's really has become a fairly corrupt organization which doesn't produce, and he would have been the guy to fix it. So that's a disappointment with it. But he was, somebody say he had all sorts of nerve, and would go into dangerous places, and just didn't seem to bother him, and he would produce. But so I am sad that he left, as is everybody, as well. And I when I spoke the other day on the War Room, I mentioned that Sam reminded one of a fellow named Patrick Lee Farmer, who was sort of an English adventurer who, in World War II, was on Crete, kidnapped a German general, spirited him out, and got him to the south coast of Crete and then off to Egypt. And Sam reminded me of him, or maybe Lee Farmer reminded people of Sam. But he had that, and Lee Farmer was actually a very accomplished writer, an adventurer, and you'd see the similarities between the two. And Sam, I was even talking about retracing Lee Farmer's route with the Hun, the Hunnish general, and getting him out of Crete. He was going to retrace it, and I offered to tag along with him, but that's not likely to come to pass. But he also, of the last couple of years, when I talked to him, he would sometimes mention that he was just going to head down to the Greek coast and hang out there with Gina and do the Zorba, the Greek sort of dancing, but taking it easy. And I wish that he had the opportunity, but at the same time, in a selfish way, one wanted him to stay in the fight, because we really needed it. And what was really so amazing is that, after all, using up so many of his 9 lives on behalf of the U.S. government, he got involved in local politics up in Pennsylvania. And that is hard, nonstop work. You're dealing with probably just as many creeps as you do when you're going after weapons of mass destruction, again, in the Islamic world. But he did it and was in that game, and he had a way of just explaining the problems, what to do about it, that resonated with what you would call regular people in flyover country, which is where he was ultimately from. He was from Greene County down in southwest Pennsylvania, which is not quite as sophisticated as Fayette County next door, where my mother's family is from. I'm joking, but he was from that. He knew where he was from, and he used to tell a story, and he wrote about it a long time ago, about a red bandana that his father, a naval officer, would sort of keep in his pocket, and it had some connection to where they were from. And Sam would actually, remember that red bandana. He probably carried it for as much as I know, but he remembered really the country, the nation, the people he was actually fighting for. So his contributions really cannot be overstated. It's you sometimes wonder about how guys like Daniel Boone went over the mountains and sort of opened up America. It was guys like him. You rarely have a chance to meet somebody and you understand sort of that courage and toughness and good humor that comes with it all. So one hardly knows what to say, but we're fortunate to have known him, and like everyone on here, I'm fortunate to be able to say, like everyone, that he was a friend of mine. But he was a real American. And they don't come along like that very often. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to say a few words on it. And I do recommend getting his books and reading them. And the story about his leading that team into Iraq, or the northern Iraq, 9 months before the invasion, is one that it will be a classic. And I think it'll be read for a long, long time. And it will help you understand Sam, the CIA, and actually what happened in Iraq. So, once again, thank you very much. I was probably a little more articulate yesterday, but, hopefully this will do. So thanks very much.
It more than does. Thank you, Colonel. Terrific. We have with us one of the people that I think Sam admired as much as the rest of us do, not least because, like him, Cleo Pascal is absolutely tenacious and able to persevere through considerable adversity in matters in which she specializes, which is primarily the islands of the Pacific and their strategic importance to our country. I know she valued her interactions with Sam, and I'm anxious to hear about them. She is a senior non-resident fellow with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and I'm very pleased that she was able to be with us. Cleo, over to you.
Thank you. I don't really feel worthy to be part of this. I was one of the many people who have met Sam, but knew him kind of more through his writing and his example. I think like many, you wanted him to approve of what you were doing. Like if he looked you in the eyes and said you were okay or encouraged you, then you knew you were on the right track. And I think there are a lot of us out there who he encouraged and said, keep going. And as somebody on another show often says, it's going to be next man up or next woman up. But there's, I don't know how many men and women you're going to need to replace Sam. Even if you could. His breadth of the areas that he touched and the topics that he knew were so vast that you'd always want to double check your information with him. You'd hear something and you go, does that make sense or not? And you'd want to know what Sam had to say about it. And then that would kind of be a compass point from which you could orient your own decisions. The only other thing I would say is that his essential truth-telling and the courage with which he said the things that needed to be said is one of the things that he transmitted. And we're celebrating his life, but I'd also just like to point out that he seems to have been, they're talking about that he's passed through long COVID. I don't think that's the right terminology. I think to honor him, we have to be accurate that he was the victim of a Chinese bioweapon that was developed in conjunction with, it seems from at least the Fauci testimony or non-testimony, the complicity of the United States government. And so, he was a victim of the things that he fought his whole life, enemies, foreign and domestic. And hopefully one day there will be a memorial wall to the victims of the Wuhan virus attack. And Sam's name is going to be on that wall. And we need to be very clear about that, to honor him and to avenge him to carry this fight forward in his name. This is not, there are way too many people died, were murdered, and I'd like to honor him by using correct terminology in pursuit of the truth, so that we know what we're fighting and why we're fighting it in the way that Sam was so clear about his entire adult life. So thank you for giving me the chance to commemorate him and through the committee to get to know him. It was one of the most important meetings of my life, and he will be missed. Thank you.
Cleo, thank you as always for bringing a considerable bit of truth-telling yourself to the program. We're going to go now to another very accomplished colonel. His name is Rob Maness. He retired from the United States Air Force after several important command posts in a distinguished flying career, including commanding a bomber squadron and Kirkland Air Force Base. He's the host of the Rob Maness Show and a very important contributor to the work at the committee, as well as, well, the public policy debate about national security. And we're delighted to have him with us for a tribute to Sam Faddis, sir. Over to you.
Thanks, Frank. Look, I don't know that I'm adequate enough to be in this company of folks that have talked about Sam, and I'm honored that you would give me the opportunity to just say a few words about him. I met him actually before we got onto the Committee on Present Danger China. From time to time, since I ran for office in the U.S. Senate in 2014, people will send candidates to me that are from the national security space, and Sam was a congressional candidate that was given my contact, and he called me. And I think he's the only candidate over these years that I actually developed not only a professional relationship with, but a friendship with, that I rely on, and we rely on each other in the background for doing the work that we do. And I would just add to what Cleo said about Sam's status and say, I think he's been one of the Americans that's been killed in action in the declared war of China against the United States of America. Just to put a little finer point from my perspective on that. And he was an American that, I've studied a lot of Americans from the 1770s and researching one of my family members. And Sam reminds me of the Americans like Daniel Boone, as Grant's talked about, or David Crockett, who is from an area of the country where I'm from, of that. And he's among a very, very few Americans that I've ever met that give me that feeling that they could stand in the breach, whether musket balls were flying, artillery shells were flying, or bombs dropping from aircraft, and he would be there when the rest of us were ducking and trying to stay out of the way, and he would be standing there facing down the enemy. That's the kind of man he was. And again, I came to rely upon him as a friend, and I still am somewhat shocked that we lost him so young. But I would just want to say that he is present with us today, and will continue that. And here's why. Look, when I heard the stories about the current NDAA that's going through the process, and I saw stories about people being concerned about a couple of sections of it that had to do with the country of Israel, the person I reached out to was Sam Faddis. And he wasn't normally able to come on my show for a whole hour, but this time he said, "Yeah, I'll come on and we'll do the whole hour together," because he wanted to talk about that, and he's one of the few Americans that actually can talk about issues like that are very sensitive to even folks that we know, and even between the two of us, and be able to get the right messaging out. And he graced my show with that just a month before he passed away, which was very rare. I wasn't able to get him very often because you guys keep him so busy, but that's okay. But for him to be able to do that and be able to talk about a sensitive issue leads people to be able to make good decisions that are making the decisions in our United States government. So he left a record for that, and I am so grateful that he did. And I'll just leave you with the one anecdote. Over the last few months, I've been on a temporary appointment working for the Department of War, and one of the people I've worked with is a political appointee that I knew had been in the CIA, and I've spent some time with him, had dinner with him, and everything. And when Sam passed away, I saw that, and there was something familiar about this man. And I didn't really put the two together, but when he passed away and it became public, this man sent a message out that said that Sam had been his chief of station. So Sam's lingering presence will stay with us for a very, very, very long time. And I pray, and I'll do everything I can to find those people. It'll take more than one, I'm sure, because he was such a unique American, to try to fill this gap. Because like the rest of you, I feel that there is a huge gap in everything that we do, from local politics to to facing down the Chinese Communist Party and defeating them in this war that they've declared upon us. So I'm grateful for him, grateful for Gina and his family, and grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, I was just trying to
join
get
you guys
organized
here today. Thank you very much, Frank, and everybody.
Okay. Oops, hold on.
You want to call me back?
Yeah, I'll call you back.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Colonel, thank you so much. The singular contribution you've made to this, I think, is that, among other things, that Sam was killed in action by the Chinese Communist Party, adding to the point that Cleo has just made as well. Colonel Newsham, I think you're not on mute, so you may want to be. We have another treat, I think, in the person of Dave Walsh, who has been a longtime participant in our programs and is at the moment on detail to the Department of War, where he too is lending a hand to the fight for freedom from the Pentagon. We have admired and benefited enormously, as I know did Sam, from the insights Dave Walsh brings to the world of energy security, having been a very accomplished professional in that sector, notably as president of Mitsubishi Power in the course of his career. He has continued to serve even when he was not in the government through the tremendous contributions he makes to our understanding of that incredibly important national security enterprise. And I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about Sam Faddis, sir. Welcome.
Well, Frank, deeply appreciate you having me. And this celebration of Sam's great life, patriotism, and what he meant to all of us. This is typified by your distinguished panel today, all of whom, Dr. Karen, Captain Bolton, yourself, Frank, Brian Kennedy, Cleo, who serve a tremendous public policy good in their willingness to be outspoken, speak truth, speak directly, speak frankly about complicated issues that so few Americans get an opportunity other than forums like the one you conduct, whether it be with Securing America or the Committee on the Present Danger of China that I've been privileged to appear on numerous times with Sam. The courage to do this is substantial. So Sam had the dual benefit of the support for devoting his life to our nation in the Army and the CIA, but then stepping up and in both local politics, which I've learned more recently about his heavy engagement in. And I have myself some familiarity with that and how challenging that can be, as well as this willingness to be completely outspoken publicly and talk from a very, very, very articulate standpoint with great knowledge and great sophistication of analysis of a whole wide variety of issues, whether they had been energy, COVID, the handling of COVID, where it emanated, military strategy, energy strategy, election fraud, and how that intersects, all that intersects with the national security threat of our number one adversary. His ability to articulate all that effectively was incredibly valuable. So on the last man up, next man up, not last man, next man up kind of way of thinking, we're all here to fill the void. And I'm just so honored to have met so many like-minded folks in this forum today. Got to know them well in our public advocacy that does. Sam led with courage, and particularly the roles he had to be so courageous, to be so forthright on issues of such criticality to all of us, and so objectively and frankly. So Frank, deeply appreciate the opportunity to talk today.
Well, it's an honor to have you with us, and thank you for what you're doing for the country and your present incarnation, Dave Walsh. We look forward to having you back on the outside, where we can take advantage of your many contributions to this particular fight. I'm I'm trying to negotiate with one of our colleagues as to whether he can stay with us through the last two. While we're negotiating that, I'm going to go to one more before we call him up. I want to welcome Ken Abramowitz, a man who has a fascinating career in the financial sector. He is one of the world leading analysts on the healthcare industry, but he has a passion for national security, as evidenced in his presidency of a group called Citizens for National Security, a wonderful online resource called SaveTheWest.com, and his appearances on, among other places, our program, Securing America. Ken Abramowitz, we're delighted to have you with us for a tribute, if you would make one, to Sam Faddis as well. I think you do him a bit, too.
Sure. Well, Sam was a hero of mine, although I must admit I never met him. He was a hero of mine because when I was talking with you, Frank, a few months ago about getting a speaker from my Citizens for National Security group, he said, "Oh, you got to go for Sam Faddis. Got to go for that's who you have to go for." So thanks to the contact information you gave me, I called them up. I tracked them down in Pennsylvania, and told them. He says, "Oh well, let me think. You know, that's a whole bunch of months away. Let me see if I can fit it in." And he called me back. He says, "Yes, I'm on." And I was so honored that he was going to make the trip from Pennsylvania down to Palm Beach, and then obviously I was as distraught as everybody when I heard the news. I don't have a lot of heroes, but he was one of them. But even though I never met him, I heard him so many times on your show, of course, and your recommendation was so over the top that I almost met him and didn't have the honor. But you'll be happy to know that 2 days ago I went to Amazon. I looked at all his books and ordered them, and I look forward to getting them in the next day or two when they come. So thank you for having me on the show to honor our mutual.
Well, thank you. I knew you would lined him up, but I wasn't sure whether it had happened or not. So I'm sorry you missed the opportunity to have that firsthand encounter, but your appreciation of him is absolutely right on. The man who actually inspired this program is our penultimate presenter. His name is Captain Jay Bolton. I don't know of anybody who follows more closely the work of the Committee on the Present Danger China, as well as participates frequently in what we do. He has the distinction of having retired from the Merchant Marine with the rank of captain, but also with the life experience and ranks of the captain of large commercial vessels and tall ships. He's been involved in celebrating the work of the maritime Merchant Marine with a museum, as well as being one of its most, I think, important spokespersons at a time when we don't have nearly what we need in that space, and what we have is not being augmented as it needs to be, I'm afraid. Jay Bolton, we're delighted to have you with us. Please bring your thoughts to bear on all of this as well, if you would.
Thank you, sir. I never met Sam Faddis, only through Present Danger China. And as I watched his various presentations, I came to obviously respect the knowledge he's imparting, but really feel a sense of dedication to our country. And that is kind of was a reminder to me that our duty now is to preserve his legacy by doing whatever we can in whatever space we occupy to continue to serve our country. And for that reason, I say God bless his soul.
Amen. Thank you, Captain. Our final presenter, who's joining us by phone, is the man who probably has done as much as anybody, well, not probably, who has done as much as anybody to both celebrate and recognize and amplify the work of Sam Faddis. That would be our friend and co-founder of the Committee on the Present Danger China, Stephen K. Bannon. He needs no introduction, certainly, to this audience. But let me simply say that what Steve has done in the course of his very multifaceted career, beginning really with his time in the Navy, his work at Goldman Sachs, his various entrepreneurial activities, including helping really put Breitbart on the map after the passing of its founder, Andrew, and his incalculably important platform, The War Room, on Real America's Voice, the program I'm proud to say we share in our network. Steve, let me simply say, by way of not so much introducing you, but simply expressing the appreciation of all of us on the committee for what you do day in and day out to lift up people like Sam and to give them voice and to have them make more of a difference than they would otherwise. Most of the people who are on this, memorial are people who have benefited greatly, as have I, from our friendship, as well as that amplification that you've made possible. And nowhere, I think, is it more important than with respect to, again, what we call the main thing, the Committee on the Present Danger, China's focus on the Chinese Communist Party. But you knew Sam well, you loved him, as we all do, and you did an enormous service to him and to the country by helping make him even larger than life through his many appearances on your program. Thank you, too. Cleo mentioned it, I think, or perhaps it was Karen, the wonderful testimonial you did for 2 hours earlier this week for Sam. So you're the perfect guy to close us out. Over to you, sir.
But closing it out, I want everybody, and Frank, if you can give him my cell number, we're going to do another, hopefully hour, but at least a half hour tomorrow of really folks that work with Sam in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, in the Patriot movement, because he did so much there, and he's one of the true leaders. I also want to do almost like another hour next week, or maybe Monday or Tuesday, of others maybe in this call. And it's not simply to honor the memory of Sam. I thought about this a lot. Sam inspired Natalie G. Winters a lot. She was very moved by him. He was very upset about his passing. And I spent some time with Natalie, and, just the complete package of Sam, kind of the James Bond character, the heroism, the courage, the intelligence, everything on Committee on the Present Danger China, inspired her to more and more become, I think, the top investigative reporter on Chinese topics, CCP topics. And I think to honor Sam the most is we have to use this as a teaching moment about the life of Sam and what Sam meant. And I think we can do that in a couple areas. Number one, it shouldn't be lost on you that the Chinese Communist Party, besides being totally and completely evil, is also very smart. I mean, they took out Sam Faddis. Think about that for a second. They took out Sam Faddis. They took out one of the major, bulwarks we have in this republic against the spread of their evil. I think we need to use Sam's death to go back and make sure everybody knows it was a bioweapon. It was a bioweapon made for a reason, like this horrible state visit they have planned for September. And if we can work together to make sure it's canceled, I think that'd be a huge victory in the memory of Sam. Use Sam's death by this bioweapon as a driving force of that. Number two is doubling down on what Sam fought for so much, which was the stealing of the big steel in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, not just to save America after the national security emergency. His second line of work. The third was Sam's work on taking down the deep state. this is why I'm so adamant to the president every day, keep Pulte in there or figure out, John Solomon. But Sam's other line of work was taking down the deep state, having come from service to our country and understand how far off track it got. His book, But the Decline and Fall of the CIA, is still a classic, I think. In the last, and I want to talk to Karen, we'll do this at some other time to think through. I think we need to use the life of Sam Faddis and the work of Sam Faddis as a way to inspire and train up young people professionally in their 20s or 30s or that are part of the apparatus like Sam was, right, to their awakening and to their formation as a warrior and a patriot to basically make sure the system is radically reformed to get back to the founding principles of the revolutionary generation and the founders of this nation. And I've got some thoughts about how we do that. Like I said, we're going to be doing other commemorations for Sam. It's both to honor Sam, but also to make sure that Sam's life and his death is an inspiration for action. This is the thing I found out, I've always thought about Sam. He was a man, at the end of the day, he was a man of action. He was an amazing thinker and a strategist, and he had all the, in baseball, we call it a five tools player. We have very few, as you guys know, we have very few five tools player in America today. We used to have lots. We just don't anymore. And the passing of Sam is, let's face it, the passing of a generation, the beginning of a passing of a generation that for all the boomers' problems, still have a skill set that some of the younger generation doesn't have, and it's not their fault they don't have it. They haven't had that guidance. They haven't had those examples. They haven't had that day-to-day leadership or mentorship that ends up with a Sam Faddis. And so we got to think this through. But I think the memory of Sam Faddis and his work, we have to make a living memory. Because you're not going to get, I know so many people, not just here, but throughout the world, and the Sam Faddises are very, very rare in any society. But they're particularly rare in the United States coming to the end of the first quarter of the 21st century and in the 250th year of its birth. And so, Frank, if you can give people my cell and just text me, if I can't get you on tomorrow, probably tomorrow is going to be more focused on some of these great grassroots people that I couldn't organize enough for the 2 hour. And then I'm going to do at least another hour next week because different elements of his life is just so important and so important for people to understand. It's like I said, we rarely got time to play the clips the other day, and the audience was coming back to me, and people I know say I need more clips of Sam, right? So we're going to figure it all out. But Frank, if you can funnel me the numbers, and like I said, Sam's life and his death are can be a North Star to us, right? If we do it right. And I think Sam would appreciate, he understands that in any war, you're going to lose through the ranks. If you go back and study the Revolution or the Civil War, you just see how many great people you lose, early on and midway through, way before victory. And Sam is one that is going to be a big, big gap, but it's got to be filled, and particularly we got to start filling with young people. So that's my thoughts, but I'd love to have all you guys participate in the coming in memoriams we're going to do.
Amen to all of that, Stephen. Thank you. That's generous, and I know that everybody will be happy to serve. I think you may have come on after Rob Maness made the point that several people have too, but he put a fine point on it that Sam was actually killed in action. In this war with the Chinese Communist Party.
We have to start. Colonel Mann is right. We have to push that.
Yeah.
Killed in action, and particularly, I'm so livid about this frickin' state visit. I can't even speak, but I think we use this to try to blow that up and make sure that we get back onto the footing of they're an enemy. They owe us $15 trillion, and Sam Faddis is a casualty of war against the CCP.
Yeah. It comes to mind that there are at least two others that I can think of similarly taken out, I believe, by the Chinese Communist Party's bioweapon, Peter Pry and Rich Higgins, And Sam is, the third in that, and obviously countless others, I'm sure, but those were three real warriors in this fight. And
Wow.
Steve, it goes, I guess, without saying, but you're looking downrange at this summit is what makes you a great strategist. Donald Trump has taken advantage of that quality, and God knows you're providing it daily through the War Room. And I'm so grateful you were able to make this particular tribute to Sam, and the idea that this is in fact just part of a living legacy for our friend who is with us, as has been observed, who is with us even now and encouraging us on. I know we're all keeping in our prayers his family, as well as, of course, this project of helping the country in his absence. Charlie Kirk, is another guy that was not taken out by a bioweapon, but, was taken from us. These are people that we must immortalize by keeping their not only memory, but their legacy, their purpose, their programs vibrant and forward, moving relentlessly, especially at a time such as this. So I want to thank each and every one of you. I won't go through the whole litany of the stars that have contributed to this program. Suffice it to say that you are among the best of us who are left, and it falls to us to do even more, both with our Committee on the Present Danger of China, of course, but in so many other respects, and I know you will. And I'm very, very deeply grateful, not only for your participation today, but also for what you are about and will be in the days to come. God bless you all. God bless this audience, and God bless America.